Picture this, you and your group of survivors live in a prison during a zombie apocalypse, and a guy called the Governor tries to invade your prison and kills a beloved guy, starting a war that destroys the prison and eventually breaks all of you up into separate little groups on the road, searching for each other and a new place to fortify amidst the chaos. Well, funny enough, that's the exact situation our group of survivors are at in The Walking Dead. Today we'll be going through the entire story of the people of Terminus, also known as the Termites or the Hunters. So kick back, relax, and grab your popcorn. Sections of Rick's group search down the roads and the railroads with uncertainty, unsure of what horrors lie ahead, zombies or other people. However, all are given hope when signs and maps across the south tell of a hidden sanctuary, salvation for all, Terminus. Over the course of the latter half of Season 4, each subgroup reunites, eventually forming two big groups with some additional survivors. One we'll call Abraham's group, and the other we'll call Rick's. Both of these groups initially come across these signs with skepticism. However, with nowhere else to go, all groups decide that it's best to head for Terminus. We first see Terminus when Abraham's group arrives during the middle of the day to a giant railway depot. On the surface, it seems like an end-of-the-rainbow haven-like place. Friendly and welcoming, with food being offered to our survivors and termites greeting them with smiles. Unfortunately, in this dark and chaotic world, you can never really trust anyone. When Rick's group arrives at Terminus, they do so with extreme caution, circling the perimeter and burying some guns near the fence, fully preparing for the worst outcome. Rather than going through the front, Rick, the careful man that he is, jumps the fence and enters through the back, sneaking into the main broadcast/warehouse room, where they are greeted by Gareth, the leader of the Termites, who kindly asks them to lay down their weapons. They comply with slight reluctance. Rick and co are then escorted to the front and offered a plate of meat. This is when Rick's daddy maternal instincts kick in, as he notices termites are wearing clothing items that once belonged to his group members before the split, namely the prison riot gear and Glenn's watch. This causes Rick to go full metal jacket and hold one of the termites hostage. Gareth tries to talk them down, saying that they had already found the items on walkers. However, Rick doesn't buy it and executes the hostage, starting a full-fledged war. As Rick runs away and fires at the other termites, they for some reason don't fight back. As they're escaping, they spot piles of bones, hear faint screams coming from containers nearby, and come across what looks like some kind of altar. Yeah, this place seems super chill and friendly. Definitely nothing funky going on. When Rick and co eventually reach the fence, they get completely surrounded and are commanded to enter the container where Abraham's group is being held. Now, remember how I said the main group from the prison was split in two? Well, now it's back together with some extra muscle on hand. In the container, Rick states to the gang,
"They're gonna feel pretty stupid when they find out."
And Abraham responds,
"Find out what?"
And then Rick responds with probably the coldest line in the whole show.
"They're with the wrong people."
The lore behind Terminus as we know it is told through a series of flashbacks. The first displays the people of Terminus being held as prisoners in a container where screams can be heard coming from outside. Dialogue between the termite leaders reveals that they used to be good people and that they were originally offering actual sanctuary to survivors.
We were trying to do something good. We were being human beings. What are we now, Gareth?
The next flashback shows a man throwing Gareth's mum back into the container. She can be heard groaning in pain and distress, visibly hurt. The man then shines his light on the other women in the container before saying he wants that one, dragging her out as she screams for mercy, pleading, "Please, not again." Gareth and his friend try to comfort his traumatized mum, telling her,
It's okay, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay.
The man hears this, bends down, and says,
No, it's not.
He then laughs like a psycho and strikes Gareth with his flashlight. After the man leaves, Gareth then states to the rest of the termites,
"We're gonna take it back."
Before making his famous declaration,
You're either the butcher or the cattle.
which pretty much sums up the Hunter's main philosophy. From this flashback, we can summarize that the termites were once good people that wanted to offer a sanctuary to all lost survivors in the apocalypse, actively advertising it all over the South. But somewhere along the way, a group of evil men, not bound by law anymore, violently took over the sanctuary, where they held the members captive and they treated them as subhuman, sadistically torturing, beating, and raping them. Eventually, they took Terminus back, but were never the same after and could not trust outsiders, adopting the butcher or cattle philosophy quite literally. Now, they use the signs to lure survivors in as livestock. We then cut to the present day where the group are trapped in the container making weapons out of anything they can get their hands on, sharpening pieces of wood, ripping off zippers, making Wolverine pens. However, the termites anticipate this and throw in a sleeping gas can from above and knock out Rick, Daryl, Bob, and Glenn. They tie them up and lead them to a warehouse where Gareth's brother, whom Rick killed, is being harvested on a table. Rick, his friends, and other victims of terminus deception are then made to kneel over a butcher's sink. One by one, their heads are bashed in with a baseball bat and their throats are cut. Absolutely gruesome. Once the executioners are about to hit Glenn, they're interrupted by Gareth, who demands Rick tell him what was in the bag he buried outside. Rick gives him a cold monologue telling him exactly what's in the bag. Guns, bows, knives, before finishing with this.
And a machete with a red handle. That's what I'm gonna use to kill you.
Gareth then laughs it off and tells the executioners to continue. It should be mentioned that as Rick talks to Gareth, it's revealed that he's holding a weapon behind his back and slowly cutting his way out of the handcuffs. Right as they're about to go for Glenn again, the termites are disoriented by the sound of bullets ricocheting off the walls nearby before a big explosion knocks everyone on the floor. We then cut to Carol and Tyrese in the forest, overhearing a termite on border duty talking about bleeding out some of their group members. Tyrese then takes him hostage while Carol goes on lookout and spots some of our group members being imprisoned. She puts on some zombie guts to go unnoticed by other walkers before setting up her sniper. She shoots a hole in the gas tank and sets off a firework, creating a large explosion, allowing a horde of walkers to penetrate the walls of Terminus and attack its residents, saving our survivors back in the butcher's room by disorientating the executioners. The executioners, while distracted, begin freaking out about what's going on, providing a perfect opportunity for Rick to cut out of his handcuffs, stab them to death, and free his friends. During their walk out, they see a room full of hanging bodies drying out, hinting at Terminus's gruesome nature. Outside, the walkers draw in and attack. I just want to say shout out to this man right here for his great survival instincts, you know. Austin Powers, anyone? I'm seeing parallels. Blending in with the horde, Carol approaches Terminus and fires at a few termites prior to locking herself in the ritual room, where she begins to fight Gareth's mum. Carol eventually wins and holds her at gunpoint, where Gareth's mum reveals that they were once really good people that offered sanctuary before they were pillaged. Now, they're either the butcher or the cattle. Carol then shoots her in the foot and lets walkers rip her up. In the next room, she spots a plethora of different weapons and items, including Daryl's crossbow. We also see a pile of kids' toys, implying that any children who came to Terminus would meet the same fate as the rest. Rick, Daryl, Bob, and Glenn go on the offensive and jump one of the hunters, using his AK-47 to mow down the other armed termites and walkers. They then free the rest of our group in the container and escape the compound. Off in the woods, the group grab a bag of guns and set off north for shelter. As they traverse the woods, the group come across a screaming priest hiding on a rock, surrounded by walkers, and decide to assist him. The man introduces himself as Father Gabriel and claims that he has been completely alone since the beginning of the apocalypse and was out searching for food as his church's food bank donations had run out. Rick then pops the famous question he asks all new members of the group.
How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why?
Gabriel responds with 0 to both, making Rick automatically extremely suspicious, as it has been about 1.5 years since the apocalypse began, making it highly unlikely that he's killed 0. Not to mention that he also lives a few miles away from a sadistic cult. But with nowhere else to go, the group follow Gabriel with extreme vigilance to the church. Upon investigation, his story seems to mostly check out as the church is empty and full of piles of food cans. However, it's clear that he's hiding something, as Rick spots a message etched in the side of the church saying, "You'll burn for this." During that night in the church, Abraham proposes that the group keep heading north for Washington, D.C., revealing that Eugene is a scientist that knows what caused the zombie outbreak and that he can cure the virus if he gets to the lab in DC. Rick agrees, and the group celebrate as they are given a glimmer of hope during this period of extreme darkness. As the celebration continues, Bob decides to go outside for a leak before breaking down in tears seemingly out of nowhere, suggesting there's something he isn't telling the group. Unfortunately, this is cut short when an unknown attacker with a hood strikes him on the back of the head and drags him away. Hours later, Bob wakes up to a handful of termite survivors eating meat around a campfire. Upon looking closer, he sees what looks like a human foot roasting on the campfire. Terrified, Bob looks down to see that his leg has been cut off and that they are eating it right in front of him. Gareth begins taunting Bob, saying,
"If it makes you feel any better, you taste much better than we thought you would,"
and how he is going to exact revenge on the group and eat all the pretty girls. He then goes on a disturbing rant about how women taste better than men as they have an extra layer of fat for childbearing, even the skinny ones. Afterwards, he starts explaining their butcher or cattle philosophy, justifying why they need to eat humans to survive. He uses the analogy of the bear and cub. In times of extreme starvation, bears will eat their cub to survive. If the bear doesn't eat the cub and dies, the cub will die anyway. But if the bear lives, it can always have another cub, hinting at the unspeakable things they did to children, displaying how twisted and animalistic their ideology had become. Gareth then reveals how Terminus wasn't a trap, and that normally asylum seekers would be given a choice. You either join them in their cannibalistic ways or feed them. You're either the butcher or the cattle. During Gareth's monologue, Bob begins sobbing before hysterically laughing. The hunters think he's lost his sanity and completely broken down before Bob reveals why he was crying outside the church in the first place. He'd been bitten earlier that day.
I've been bitten, you stupid pricks!
Bob then declares his famous line.
I'm tainted meat.
The hunters start to freak out and become unsure whether they'll turn or not, and decide to knock Bob out. Back at the church, the group is super tense as one of their members has just disappeared. Everyone then looks to Gabriel as the culprit, as it's clear he's hiding something based on his shady nature and the ominous message etched in the side of the church. Rick then presses him to reveal his secrets. Gabriel subsequently breaks down crying and unveils that during the beginning of the apocalypse, he was a coward who locked himself in the church and refused to let anyone in as they screamed for help outside. As the group believes him and understands he is not a threat, faint whistles are heard coming from outside as the now single-legged Bob is left unconscious on the doorstep to scare the group. Bob is brought inside and reveals the hunters are sadistic cannibals that ate his leg right in front of him, and that they are located at an elementary school nearby. Abraham begins freaking out and wants to leave as there is a clear threat to Eugene's life and insists he takes the bus. Rick objects to this and says they can leave, but only on foot. The situation quickly escalates as Rick and Abraham stand off.
You're not taking the bus.
Try to stop me.
Wait!
Fortunately, Glenn breaks them up before things get ugly and gets them to compromise. They eventually come to an agreement that Abraham can take the bus after half a day. Shortly after, fighters of the group disappear into the woods as the vulnerable hide in the rectory. The hunters appear from the dark and begin to storm inside. As they slowly flood in, Gareth taunts the group, telling them he knows that their strong have walked out with most of their weapons and that it's pointless to hide. As the hunters start trying to figure out which door to blow open, baby Judith begins crying, giving away their position. Gareth then gives them an opportunity to walk out before preparing to blow the hinges off the door. As they are about to shoot the hinges, 2 termites are killed by a silencer off in the shadows. Out of the darkness, Rick tells them,
Put your guns on the floor.
Rick will fire right into that office, so you lower your gun.
Gareth kneels and commands the rest of the hunters to kneel. One of them tries to refuse, and Abraham responds,
I want to bet.
which he quickly complies to. Gareth then begins to beg for their lives to be spared.
Still, you could have killed us when you came in. There had to be a reason for that.
We didn't want to waste the bullets.
He reasons that they used to help people until a group of savage plunderers came and did all kinds of unspeakable evil to them, and that Rick doesn't know what it's truly like to be hungry.
We used to help people. We saved people. I know that you've been out there, but I can see it. You don't know what it is to be hungry.
Gareth tells Rick to let them go and that they will never cross paths again. However, Rick is firm and tells him that he'd do this sadistic evil to anyone, even children. Rick then keeps his promise that he made earlier to Gareth at the sink.
Besides, I already made you a promise.
By unmercifully slaughtering Gareth and the rest of the termites at the church, making us question the group's humanity and if they're still the good guys, blurring the line between good and evil as they kill people who have surrendered on their knees in a church of all places. Yes, they were inherently evil cannibals who'd kill and eat children, were going to attack the group if they hadn't stopped, and were unlikely to keep their promise. But to see them get slaughtered brutally like lambs as they beg for mercy after they had already surrendered and promised to disappear leaves us viewers in a moral grey zone. Ultimately, the hunters were a group of good people that wanted to provide sanctuary for all, but were overrun by evil men who were principally unbound after the fall of the apocalypse and become slaves to their primitive urges. When the hunters eventually took back the sanctuary, they were never the same after. The suffering and starvation they endured under the evil men was so great that their ideology had been completely transformed into a literal butcher or cattle philosophy, displaying how even the best of people, ones who offer to help strangers during the apocalypse out of sheer goodwill, can be corrupted and broken, highlighting how, under extreme trauma, people will withdraw their moral principles to survive, and that unjust suffering can justify anything if you allow it to. Gareth never says we're monsters, He says we've adapted. The Hunter's story also communicates the terrifying implications of a lawless and limitless world on humanity. A lack of moral ceiling and repercussions makes survival the only inherent truth and value, making us question, how good are we really without society's defined moral truths and laws? Would we really be as morally good as we think we are if there were no repercussions to our actions? Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing or liking it. It's completely free and would help me out so much. God bless.